far over you reckon them fellers are?
All of a sudden, the little varmint kicked at me. He spit at me.
Gotta keep moving.
Counting the one on the end. How many E's in the word dear?
In 1972, a man rewrote his best friend's wedding episode. He had to. His best friend had been dead 4 months. Then he put the dead man's photograph on the set. That man was Michael Landon. And that isn't even the strangest thing that happened to this cast. For 14 years, Bonanza was the safest hour on American television. A father, 3 sons, a ranch the size of a small country. Off camera? Different story. One of them walked away at the peak. One was found alone 10 days after he died. One turned a teen idol part into a 30-year career behind the camera. And one of them was hired to be a Cartwright. Given his own credit in the titles, dropped inside 5 weeks. Here's what happened to each of them.
Who's the big fella? Oh, him? He's another Cartwright.
Before the Ponderosa Bonanza premiered on Saturday, the 12th of September, 1959, 7:30 in the evening opposite Perry Mason, NBC executives thought about canceling it before a single episode aired. Not because of ratings, nobody had seen it yet, because of money. Shooting a full hour in color, on location, cost a fortune. Season 1 finished somewhere around 45th place. So what saved it? Hardware. NBC was owned by RCA. RCA made color television sets, and Americans weren't buying them. Bonanza was the shop window. RCA sponsored the first 2 seasons outright.
Don't you josh with me, little Joe.
Oh, boy, that'd be the day anybody tried to josh with you, you Yankee granite head.
Joe.
The show you remember only exists because somebody needed to sell you a television. And the rescue, when it came, wasn't creative either. It was a scheduling change. In the autumn of 1961, the show moved to Sunday nights at 9. It finished that season 2nd in the country.
You can get out through the window, please, before it's too late.
Ma'am, I thought we had a supper date together.
Then it went to number 1 and stayed there 3 straight years. Hold on to 3 numbers as we go. Number 1, then 20th, then 50th. You'll need them later. The 4 men who rode down that hill weren't famous in 1959. Reports put their starting pay at $1,250 an episode. By the middle of the run, other reports put them near $10,000, and the man at the center of it got the job because of the way he played a torturer.
Hop Singh, very sorry. Very, very sorry.
Get a very good dinner. Roast pig.
Lorne Greene, Ben Cartwright. Lorne Greene was born in Ottawa in 1915. His father was a shoemaker. He was headed for a career in chemical engineering before theater got hold of him. He became the principal newsreader on CBC National News. The war news was so bad and his delivery so grave that Canadians gave him a second name, the Voice of Doom. Maclean's magazine ran a profile under that title. But television needed a father, so they went looking for the man who'd played a torturer. In 1953, Greene played O'Brien in a television version of 1984. O'Brien's the man who breaks Winston Smith. That performance is what put him on the Ponderosa. He'd also run a school. The Lorne Greene Academy of Radio Arts opened in Toronto in 1945. It trained Leslie Nielsen. It trained James Doohan, who'd become Scotty on Star Trek. 381 students in 7 years. So if you've ever heard Scotty speak, you've heard a Lorne Greene graduate.
This is Lieutenant Commander Scott. The Enterprise takes no orders.
And it lost money the whole time. Greene closed it in 1952 and sold the building to cover himself. Then he left for America. He was 44 when Bonanza premiered. Dan Blocker was 30. Michael Landon was 22. Now here's something no television father has managed since. In 1964, Lorne Greene had the #1 record in America. The song was Ringo, a spoken word ballad about a gunfighter. It topped the Billboard Hot 100. He also built a full replica of the Ponderosa Ranch house in Mesa, Arizona. Then he lived in it. After the show, the fatherhood never let him go. Commander Adama on Battlestar Galactica, a fire chief commanding his own children on Code Red. He spent his last decade making wildlife films, right up to the year he died. Lorne Greene died on the 11th of September, 1987, aged 72. Complications from pneumonia after ulcer surgery. And there's one more thing. He'd been cast to play Ben Cartwright one last time for a reunion film. He died before filming began. The reunion went ahead without its father. But Greene wasn't the first Cartwright to vanish. That happened 6 years in, and people are still arguing about why.
Doesn't it? My son was shot trying to get a drink of water to you. You want the rest of us to fight for you?
I'm not asking for your charity.
Pernell Roberts, Adam Cartwright. One week Adam Cartwright was there. The next week he'd moved away. Millions of people have wondered why. The answer's less dramatic than the legend, and far more interesting. Pernell Roberts was the most classically trained actor in that cast. He dropped out of 2 universities. He served 2 years in the Marine Corps, playing tuba. Then he won a Drama Desk Award in 1955 for an off-Broadway Macbeth, 4 years before he ever read a Ponderosa script. And the premise bothered him early. In 1963, he put a question to a reporter. Wasn't it a bit silly for 3 grown men to ask their father's permission for everything? 2 years later, he was blunter. He said being in Bonanza was like Isaac Stern sitting in with Lawrence Welk. Now here's the half almost nobody tells you. His objection was never only about the writing. He pushed NBC over the casting of white actors in non-white roles. And in 1965, the same year he left the show, Pernell Roberts marched at Selma. Think about what that looked like. The man who played Adam Cartwright was in Alabama. The man millions of Americans watched on a Nevada ranch every Sunday night. America didn't see that. America was watching Bonanza. In 1979, Roberts came back to all of it. He said he'd stopped enjoying the show. He also said he never said the things people claimed he said. Both are on the record. Both are dated. What isn't in dispute is that he didn't storm off a set. He finished a 6-year contract and declined to renew it. He said later he'd have stayed on part-time if they'd let him do theater alongside it. They wouldn't. What followed was 14 years without a leading role. Then, in 1979, he came back to weekly television as Trapper John, and he explained why. Plainly, he'd watched his own father grow old. He understood what it looked like to have no security. Years afterwards, the man who created Bonanza said something remarkable about him. Dortord admitted he'd been too hard on Roberts. He said he hadn't realized how good the man was. He wished he'd kept him on as a semi-regular. Pernell Roberts died of pancreatic cancer on the 24th of January, 2010. He was 81. He outlived all 3 of the others, and he joked about being the last one left. And in his final years, he watched the reruns. He said it was how he saw his old friends. Hold that name, because Pernell Roberts comes back into this story once more, at the saddest possible moment.
Time to hear no grown man cry. Smile as you go by, buddy, smile as you go by, 'cause
Dan Blocker, Hoss Cartwright. Hoss was the gentlest man on American television. That wasn't an accident of casting. It was a decision. Blocker said he played the character with one idea in his head. We passed this way once. Whatever kindness we can manage, we should manage now. He was born in DeKalb, Texas, in 1928. He played college football. He earned a master's degree in dramatic arts. He worked as a rodeo performer. He worked as a bar bouncer. And twice, he worked as a school teacher. High school English and drama in Texas. 6th grade in New Mexico. Then came Korea. Dan Blocker was drafted into the Army and served as an infantry sergeant, December 1951 to August 1952. He was wounded in combat and awarded the Purple Heart. He earned the Combat Infantryman Badge. Think about that for a second. Television's gentle giant came home wounded. Then he spent 14 years teaching a country what gentleness looked like. Off-screen, he stayed busy. In 1963, he took part ownership of a steakhouse chain carrying the show's name. It grew to roughly 600 locations. He owned a racing car. He campaigned publicly against Ronald Reagan in the 1966 governor's race. And according to the co-writer of Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick wanted him to ride the bomb. That account says his agent turned the script down. Slim Pickens got the part. On the 13th of May, 1972, Dan Blocker died. He was 43. He'd gone into hospital for gallbladder surgery. A blood clot reached his lung. He was buried in a family plot in DeKalb, Texas. The stone is plain. America mourned Hoss Cartwright. Most of them had no idea what else they were mourning. A combat veteran, a Purple Heart, a school teacher, a man who'd been wounded in a war, came home and chose to play the kindest character on television. The gentle giant had seen the worst of it. He chose gentleness anyway. Two things happened afterwards that still land hard. Robert Altman had directed episodes of Bonanza, and the two had become friends. Altman had already cast Blocker in The Long Goodbye. Blocker died before filming began. Sterling Hayden took the role, and Altman dedicated the finished film to him. The second thing is on screen, and you can watch it happen. From season 3 onward, the cast wore the same clothes in almost every episode. That wasn't a style choice. It was accounting. Identical wardrobe meant the stunt doubles matched. It meant old riding footage could be reused forever. For years, the shots of the Cartwrights riding out were the same shots, over and over. You watched them without ever noticing. Then Blocker died, and all of that footage became unusable because it showed a dead man. So in season 14, Landon and Greene started appearing in different shirts. They had to. You can see the death of Dan Blocker in a shirt. It was never announced. It was never explained on air. It's just there in the wardrobe if you know to look. Now, about the ending, you've probably heard that Blocker's death killed Bonanza. That's 1/3 of the truth. 3 things happened at once. Blocker died. NBC moved the show from Sunday to Tuesday, straight into Maud. And the ratings had already slipped the season before, from 9th place to 20th. Number 1, 20th, 50th. That's where season 14 finished. Which brings us back to that photograph, and to the man who put it there.
I ain't got no pants on.
No, ma'am, I reckon you ain't.
What's the matter, you big ape? Ain't you never seen a lady before?
Michael Landon, Little Joe Cartwright. He was born Eugene Orowitz in Queens in 1936. He talked about his childhood publicly, and he never softened it. He said he wasn't allowed to date in high school because of the anti-Semitism in his town. He also said his mother tried to take her own life, more than once. He described pulling her out of the water on a family holiday. He was a child when that happened. Hold that, because it comes back. Here's the turn that sent him west, and it wasn't a plan. In 1954, Landon threw a javelin further than any high school athlete in America. That earned him a scholarship to the University of Southern California. Then he tore the ligaments in his shoulder. That ended the athletics. It ended his time as a student, and it left him in Los Angeles with nothing to do. He took a job pumping petrol across the road from Warner Brothers. A talent agent spotted him there. He was told his name would hold him back, so he picked a new one out of a telephone book. He was 22 when Bonanza premiered, cast to pull teenagers toward a Western. And then he did the thing that changed everything. Landon got more fan mail than anyone else in that cast. He took that leverage to the producers and asked for something unusual. He asked to write. His first script aired in 1962. He directed his first episode in 1968. By the end, he'd written around 20 of them, which brings us all the way back to where we started. Landon wrote the 2-hour opener of the final season as Hoss's wedding. Dan Blocker was going to be the groom. Blocker died roughly 2 months before filming, so Landon rewrote it. Little Joe married instead. Landon directed it himself. It aired on the 12th of September, 1972. 13 years to the day since the premiere. There's a shot in it of a photograph of Hoss sitting on Little Joe's dresser. The camera moves in on it. And years afterwards, Landon said something about his friend that explains all of it. Whenever he needed to cry on camera for the rest of his career, he thought about Dan Blocker's death. He carried that for 20 years. Now here's the part about his mother. In 1973, Landon's eldest daughter was the only survivor of a car crash. She lay in a coma for days. He said later that he made a bargain. If she came through it, he'd build something that helped people. She came through it. He made Highway to Heaven. Think about the shape of that life. A boy who spent his childhood frightened his mother wouldn't be there in the morning. He grew up and spent 30 years making television about families that never fall apart. And he didn't only build them on screen. When Bonanza ended, Landon didn't leave alone. He took his producer, his director, and his composer with him. They stayed through Little House on the Prairie. They stayed through Highway to Heaven. 30 years of the same names on the payroll. He wasn't easy for everyone. Karen Grassel, who played his wife on Little House, wrote about a difficult working relationship. She's also said the two of them made peace before he died. Michael Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer on the 5th of April, 1991. He went on The Tonight Show and told the country himself. He died on the 1st of July. He was 54. He's buried at Hillside Memorial Park in the same cemetery as Lorne Greene. But there's one man in that cast whose story almost nobody knows, and it's the hardest one here.
You know I'd consider that. I'll do the best I can. Please remember, it's like my pa says, I must vote the way I think is right.
Victor Sen Young, Hop Singh. If your family watched Bonanza, you watched this man every single week, and you almost certainly never knew his name. Victor Sen Young was born in San Francisco in 1915. His mother died in the influenza pandemic. He and his sister were placed in a children's shelter. He went to Berkeley, where he majored in animal husbandry. Before Bonanza, he played Charlie Chan's number 2 son in 11 films. He'd been hired, in the most literal sense, to replace somebody, and the show's creator said the character caught on. Dortort said Hop Singh developed real fans, and that he wrote episodes around him because of it. Here's what the joke never allowed. Victor Sen Young was an accomplished chef in real life. He published a cookbook in 1974 and appeared regularly on cooking programs. The man who played a cook could actually cook. In 1972, he was a passenger on a hijacked airliner. When the FBI stormed the plane, he was shot in the lower back. He survived. 3 years later, he went on to tell the truth, to talk about it. He sat between two imposters. 3 men, all claiming to be Victor Sen Young. Think about who was actually sitting there. A man who'd been on the most watched show in America for 14 seasons. A face on national television every Sunday night. The panelists studied all 3 of them. Then they voted. Not one of the 4 picked him. They picked the imposters. Invisible in plain sight. On the 9th of November 1980, Victor Sen Young was found dead in his home. He was 65. He'd been running a small mail-order pottery business, curing clayware in an oven. A gas leak killed him. He'd been dead around 10 days. 10 days. Police ruled it an accident. And here's the last thing, told the way it should be told. According to accounts of the funeral, it was Pernell Roberts who gave the eulogy. The same accounts say he paid for it. The man most associated with disliking Bonanza was the one who stood up for Hop Singh.
Never change. Chinese people is a very smart. Know this a long time.
David Canary, Candy. He turned down professional football to act. The Denver Broncos drafted him in 1960. He went to New York instead. He was also, briefly, on a short list to replace Leonard Nimoy as Spock. Bonanza hired him in 1967 to fill the space Adam Cartwright left behind. Dortort had seen him in a Paul Newman picture. He said that when Canary walked on, nobody else was on screen. He walked out in 1970 over a contract dispute. Then Dan Blocker died, and they called him back. And after all that, he became the most decorated actor from the entire show. Now sit with this one. 14 seasons, number 1 for 3 years, more than 430 episodes, 0 acting Emmys, 0. David Canary, the man brought back to fill a dead man's shoes, won 5. He won them on a daytime soap, playing identical twins across more than 25 years. The Cartwrights won nothing. Television's most famous family never took home a single acting award. That's what being beloved costs you. Nobody calls you good. They just call you family. David Canary died in November 2015, aged 77.
Mr. Damien, you friends of his?
And he's here?
Was here. Wonderful man, real gentleman.
How long ago did they leave? It's gonna be tough tracking them at night. We'll need torches.
Guy Williams, Will Cartwright. He was Zorro. Children adored him. And for about 8 weeks in 1964, he was going to be a Cartwright. Pernell Roberts was expected to leave after season 5. So the producers brought in Guy Williams as Ben's nephew Will. He wasn't a guest star. He was given his own credit in the opening titles. He was being built into the family. Then Pernell Roberts signed on for one more year. Will Cartwright was written out after 5 episodes, and Roberts left anyway, 12 months later. 1 year. That's all that stood between Guy Williams and a decade on the Ponderosa. He went to Lost in Space instead. Then he retired. Then he moved to Buenos Aires, where Argentina had never stopped loving Zorro. He died there in April 1989, age 65, from a brain aneurysm. 5 episodes, 5 weeks on air. That's how close a man came to spending 10 years with that family. And it lasted less than 2 months.
I didn't want to be part of any other family. You see, I loved and admired my father.
Ray Teal, Sheriff Roy Coffey. Before he was a sheriff, he was a saxophone player. Ray Teal worked his way through university as a band leader. He didn't act professionally until his mid-30s. Then he never stopped. Hundreds of roles across 4 decades, including The Best Years of Our Lives and Judgment at Nuremberg. He played Sheriff Roy Coffey in 98 episodes across 12 seasons, a steady presence in a show that changed everything around him. He died in 1976, aged 74, never a star, just there, every single time the Cartwrights needed the law.
What's he so mad about, Mr. Coffee?
Oh, I think he's just a little nervous about that Wagner gang.
Pooh, you could handle him with your hands tied.
Well, now, maybe we hadn't better go that far, huh?
Bing Russell, Deputy Clem Foster. He played the deputy for 12 seasons. When the show ended, the work dried up. Then his son had an idea. His son was Kurt Russell. In 1973, the two of them founded the Portland Mavericks, the only independent club in its league, at a time when organized baseball had written the city off. Bing ran it his own way. He kept a bigger roster than he needed because he believed some players deserved one more season. He hired the first female general manager in professional baseball. The team drew record crowds and won a pennant. Decades later, a documentary was made about all of it. It was directed by his own grandsons. Bing Russell died in 2003. The deputy from Virginia City is remembered now for something else entirely.
All of a sudden, the little varmint kicked at me. He spit at me. Called me a whole bunch of names. They jumped in the wagon and they was gone.
Where they all are now. Mitch Vogel guest starred on Bonanza at 12 years old. 2 seasons later, they made him a Cartwright. He played Jamie, the orphan Ben adopts. Then, at around 22, he walked away from acting entirely. He moved to Pittsburgh. He married, raised 2 daughters, and formed a rock band. He never went back. In 2010, he was asked on camera about Dan Blocker. He said Blocker was the most down-to-earth of them, the kind of man you could sit and have a beer with. Tim Matheson was the last man hired. He joined for the final season as Griff King, a parolee released into Ben Cartwright's custody. Episodes were being built around him when NBC canceled the show. He went on to play Otter in Animal House. He earned 2 Emmy nominations for The West Wing. He directs now, and he's still working. The last actor hired had the longest career of anyone on that show, and everyone else is gone. Lorne Greene, dead at 72. Pernell Roberts, dead at 81. Dan Blocker, dead at 43. Michael Landon, dead at 54. Victor Sen Young, dead at 65. David Canary, dead at 77. Guy Williams, dead at 65. Ray Teal, dead at 74. Bing Russell, gone in 2003. Bonanza was the safest hour on American television. Every single person who made it feel that way is gone now, except 2. The Ponderosa. There was a real Ponderosa, or at least, that's what people were told. A tourist ranch near Lake Tahoe, built to look exactly like it. It opened in the late 1960s, a full-size replica of the Cartwright house. At its peak, 200,000 visitors a year. It outlived almost everybody in this video. It closed on the 26th of September, 2004. And here's the thing about that place. Only around 15 episodes were ever filmed there. Flying the cast up to Tahoe every week cost far too much. Most of Bonanza was shot in California, on a studio backlot, hundreds of miles from that lake. The Ponderosa never existed. 200,000 people a year came to see it anyway. They queued, they paid. They stood where they believed the Cartwrights had stood. They came to visit a family that was never there, and Michael Landon understood that better than any of them. He spent the next 20 years building more of them. Now the numbers, one last time. Number 1 in 1964, 20th in 1971, 50th in 1972, 14 seasons. 3 at the top, then the slide, then the end. More than 430 episodes, and not one acting award for any of them. The photograph on the dresser wasn't a memorial, it was a promise. Dan Blocker said it years before he died. In an interview almost nobody remembers. We passed this way once. Whatever kindness we can manage, we should manage now. He'd been a rodeo performer. He'd been a bar bouncer. He'd been a school teacher. He'd been wounded in a war. And then he played the gentlest man on television. Not because it came easily, because he chose it. Dan Blocker was 43 when he died. He got that part right. If this one landed, there's a companion piece on the channel already. The Andy Griffith Show. What really happened to that cast? Same research, same sourcing, same care taken. Subscribe if you want more of them, because there's a new one every week. The shows you grew up with were made by people, and the people had whole lives. Thanks for riding out to the Ponderosa with me.